Guys, my name is Emma, and today is day 18 of the 25 Days of Perspective. Today we're going to talk about nutrition. A child dies from hunger every 15 seconds. 1 billion people do not have access to clean water. Now, if you watched one of my latest videos on food waste, which I'll link it, I talked about how food waste costs $1 trillion every single year, and a majority of the food that is thrown away is crop food. So beans, vegetables, fruit, a lot of that food is thrown out. And then we have 150 billion land animals that are grown for human consumption, although a lot of it is also not consumed because too much of it's produced and a lot of it just gets thrown out. It expires before people can eat it, just gets thrown out because there's too much of it. And so another important thing about that is that although these animals might die from cancers and diseases and, of course, from slaughter to be made into animal products, they will never die from a lack of food or water. So we take a great deal of food and water to feed these animals that just end up getting thrown out, and then we are not feeding enough people who actually could consume that food and water. And I encourage you to check out what's going on in the world from your own perspective. I will link amazing channels down below that have done that work for years, have studied this their entire lives, and they are the people to go on the finer points about nutrition, about like what do we actually need and all of that. But I want to put it in this bigger picture of, although some people on part of the world are dying from having access to no food or little food, there's people on the other side of the world dying from obesity, being overweight, and the diseases and sicknesses that go along with that. Yet both of these populations, which comprise most of the world, are malnourished. Your body needs specific nutrients to build and grow and to function efficiently. And if it is continuously not given that, anything that you do provide it feels like it is in a survival mode. It feels like there's not enough access to food that is nutritionally what it needs. So the weight starts to pack on and these diseases come along with it because your body can no longer sustain it because the food that is being provided is not what the body needs. So we are facing the same problem, two separate sides of the world, malnourishment. And is it partially because we just take on what society has told us, what we learned from our parents, and just it's not something that is okay to talk about? Food, what you eat, how you walk around and consume food, how you walk through life with that. It's quite interesting because a majority of the human population, for a majority of its existence, has primarily focused on what type of food that we eat. They worked all day in the fields, they worked the whole summer to have food in the winter, and they very much knew what they were consuming. It's a very recent phenomenon that people have, at least in this part of the world, the western side is the part of the world that has no idea where their food comes from, what it means, what it does to them, what they should be eating. And the fact that a majority of our ancestors knew exactly where their food was coming from. They knew who the person who grew the corn was. They knew the person who killed the animals down the street. They knew where all of this stuff was coming from. Now we go into a supermarket and it could come from anywhere in the world and we have no idea. And then we, on top of that, don't know what's actually good for us. We don't spend any time with our food anymore because we live in a fast-paced world. The turnover from getting food to eating it is less than 10 minutes usually. I know that it has been for me a lot of the time. In 10 minutes, you can't figure out where did this food come from. You probably stopped by somewhere, picked something up, ate it, and then moved on. Food has gone from being majority of our day to almost none of it except for the time that we're eating, and we have even shortened that as much as possible. So give yourself back that time. Bring it back, bring those questions in and say, hey, where is this coming from? What is good for me? What did my grandparents eat when they were growing up? Did they know? How about we go back further? But why don't we look towards our future too? What is what we're doing right now affecting not the future of our children, but the future of our lives in the next 10 years? How is the overconsumption of and the overgrowing of food going to affect our planet in just the next 10 years? These are questions that need to be answered. They need to be looked at. They need to be sat with and explored, and really we need to give ourselves the time. And food is what makes us grow. It makes us feel better about ourselves or makes us feel worse. And we owe it to ourselves, to our community, to our family, to the people in this world to take a moment and actually figure out what we're doing with our lives, because right now it seems like we're destroying almost everything and destroying ourselves in the process. So I encourage you, look down in the description box, take a look at those, and just figure out the information for yourself. Don't do something just because somebody told you to. Except for looking in the description box, you should do that. But also go and find your own information about it, because that is how we educate ourselves, is deciding, all right, well, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense, and thinking about it in a bigger picture is the goal. So thank you for being here, and I hope that you have an amazing day.